No mai, haere mai, welcome to 3 News. We were expecting fireworks around Waitangi commemorations and they came today. The minister behind the Treaty Principles Bill came onto the treaty grounds. David Seymour was heckled, had his microphone taken away twice, and the hosts literally turned their backs on him. Senior political correspondent Jenna Lynch is there.
Behold the beautiful Bay of Islands and burning in on a boat, the force of the North, Shane Jones.
No, it's a pleasant day. I think that's relatively cool and agreeable atmosphere here at Waitangi.
But up the hill, a less than agreeable audience awaited parliamentarians. The Warriors issuing a taki. Parliament's boss, Jerry Brownlee, stepping up, but the Warriors had other plans. They wanted David Seymour. He stepped up, but unusually with his cabinet colleagues acting as bodyguards of sorts.
There's an unhelpful virus that's crept into a lot of our Maori welcome ceremonies, and they're starting to bark and they're starting to yell in the wero. That is never ever the culture.
Those gathered here at Waitangi are clearly not fans of Seymour's Treaty Principles Bill and wanted to show the government exactly how they felt. Instead of a waiata to support their speaker's message, Ngāpuhi chose a haka. But the ACT leader did not care what the crowd here wanted to hear. He came to say what he wanted to say, no matter how upsetting some found it.
And perhaps blaming me is a convenient distraction from other problems. Here are some problems that you can't turn your back on because the numbers do not lie. Maori home ownership, Maori school attendance, Maori victimisation by criminals, Maori unemployment, Maori incomes and life expectancy.
And so he was shunned. People turned their backs and took his microphone. A kaumātua returning his voice, only for Ngāti Wai chair Apirahama Edwards to remove it again.
Ngā mihi, and I look forward to working with you. You know you want to.
Well, the turning of backs is a signal, basically to stop talking and sit down. We've always heard sentiments from our elders to be mindful and to be careful of the messages our children hear. And our tamariki were there and they were watching.
I found that disappointing.
Kia ora tātou. Well, you can take away my microphone, but you can't take away an idea. And ultimately, this country will have something very much like the Treaty Principles Bill, because the idea of equal rights is what the treaty promised.
Well, I think David Seymour gave a deliberately inflammatory speech, and I think he got a response that was proportionate to that. He came here clearly to try and provoke a reaction, and he got a reaction. It's not the sort of thing I think responsible political leaders do.
I think turning the microphone off to David Seymour was a cheap stunt.
New Zealand First sat as far as possible from their coalition partners, creating both literal and figurative distance from the Treaty Principles Bill.
How do you feel walking into Waitangi as part of a government with David Seymour that is progressing, at this time, a Treaty Principles Bill?
Well, it's dead on the water, so how do you feel about that? Wasting the oxygen of this event.
It also got a dose of the back turning.
And to those of you who have turned your back, there'll come a time and soon you want to talk to us far more than we want to talk to you.
The Prime Minister choosing a regional road announcement over showing face at Waitangi.
I feel quite comfortable in that decision, and when you, as I said, you look back over the history of New Zealand, we've had Prime Ministers not go every year.
Those on the receiving end of the change in proceedings up north upset about what they say is a change in tikanga. Jones warning both sides could play that game.
When I grew up, when the welcome ceremony was conducted and you had the challenge, we always brought 2 or 3 runners with us, and those runners chased the person doing the wero, and if they could catch them, they rubbed their head in horse shit. Sadly, I didn't bring a bag of horse shit with me today.
Seymour denying his actions were inflammatory.
Actually, ideas don't hurt. You know, it's trying to intimidate people, take away their ability to speak, threaten them with war dances. Some people might say that that was threatening. When people get up, they do their war dance. You know, that is tikanga. I grew up with that in the north.
Do you not think it's inflammatory to say in a dismissive way they'll get up and do their war dance?
Yeah, well, actually, it's not dismissive. That's what they do, and yet. I beg your pardon?
Why don't you call it a haka?
Well, we've got two languages in this country.
And Jones threatening to reconsider funding for the Waitangi Trust.
I just gave them $10 million. So if you want to take the money, you take the responsibility of looking after your manuhiri.
Would you call it blackmail?
Well, it's certainly an abuse of power. Yes, and actually you could call it blackmail.
After all was said and done, the Navy called a close to the day. David Seymour with a front row seat.
Well, Jenna joins us now from the treaty grounds. Jenna, you've been up there covering Waitangi for years now. How different was today, and how much of that do you think was planned?
So when I first started coming up here, the politician Pōwhiri was still held down at Te Tii Marae, and that was known for a bit of argy-bargy. In more recent years, it's obviously been held here at the upper treaty grounds, and largely it's been more ceremonial. There were challenges raised, but always in kind of a polite manner. That changed over the last 2 years. Last year, we saw protesters show up and drown out David Seymour speaking. This year, it was really different because the hosts themselves decided to stage that protest in a way that they felt fit with their tikanga. Now, from what I understand, everything was planned other than that moving microphone. The Ngāpuhi hosts wanted to make a statement. They held long hui about what they were going to do last night, and even up until the point when the politicians were walking onto the marae, they were still deciding the protocol of the day. Now, if the government is feeling hard done by about what transpired today, they should probably thank their lucky stars that the initial plan didn't go ahead, which what I understand is the warriors were to walk them onto the marae and then march them straight back off without letting them speak. Now, without even hitting that DEFCON button, the Ngāpuhi hosts have made their message heard loud and clear.
Jenna Lynch there live from the treaty grounds. Thanks so much.